Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Again, the theme is grocery haul and food, what we eat in a week, but this time there's a twist. I wanted to add an extra challenge and see if we are able to eat like my grandparents used to eat in rural Romania in 1959. Why 1959? Because my mom was born in 1958, so in 1959 she was one, and we have a 1-year-old son. So we kind of use that time stamp, the age of one. There's a lot to say about how my grandparents used to eat in 1959 in rural Romania. They were farmers, like subsistence agriculture. I'll explain more during the video as I cook the recipes, but here are some like general parameters. My grandparents did not have a refrigerator in 1959, which means that my grandma used to cook every day in the summer or every couple of days in the winter. It is now the beginning of November, so I'm trying to make this like calendar accurate and season accurate in terms of what foods were available in the season and what they would generally eat. But of course I have a fridge, so this makes my life easier. I would say that 90% of what they ate was stuff that they were growing themselves. They had sheep. They did have fruit trees, but this season doesn't really have a lot of fresh fruit because it's November and most of the fruit is already gone. My grandma did a lot of canning for vegetables, and I'll explain that when time comes. There was a lot of cabbage, potatoes, rice. They had chicken, a lot of chicken. So the chicken meat was the most prevalent meat outside of the pork season. The pork season was right before Christmas and then like the whole winter. They also had ducks and geese and turkeys, but of course I cannot find duck and goose meat at the store, and also I don't like it, so I did get turkey. You'll see. And last, before I show you the haul, it took me 4 stores to find what I needed, or approximate versions of what I needed, because we are obviously very, very far from Romania. So without further ado, let's see what I got. This is the totality of the haul that I'm using for this challenge, and it is divided between Fiesta, Phoenicia, and H-E-B. And I also went to Kroger, and I was hoping to find some cheese that I ended up finding at Phoenicia. But let's take everything one by one. So of course we have a lot of potatoes. I got a 10-pound bag. Of course we're not going to use all of them. 18 eggs. We already have 18 eggs, but they were on sale, so I just couldn't help myself. Plus eggs are fundamental in my grandparents' diet in 1959. I got these chicken thighs, this whole chicken, and of course the realistic thing is like would have been to buy whole chickens because they would literally like slaughter the chicken in the yard, but I just couldn't justify the waste. So I also got some gizzards because we used to eat this, like when you slaughter the whole chicken, you have the gizzards, you have the liver. So you'll see how I'll add this to the soup and also to the rice pilaf that I'm gonna make. Also, I got some turkey breast. I have a cabbage recipe that I wanna make. And I just wanted to vary a little bit and not just make it with chicken because doesn't sound good. Anyway, so I'll make this with the turkey breast, and also because in my head the idea of cabbage cannot be separated from the idea of some sort of smoked something, and I couldn't get bacon obviously, or any pork or smoked pork. I got turkey bacon, which is smoked, or at least should smell like smoke. I got a lot of onion. I got 2 tomatoes and 3 peppers. These are not going to be used as is. They're going to be used for soups. Oh, also carrots. And this is something where I had to like approximate what the process was, because what my grandma used to do, she would chop and can these vegetables when they were fresh, and then she would use the canned vegetables to put in the soup. Of course I didn't do this because I don't know how to do it, and obviously I prefer to eat this fresh. So I got them fresh, but I'm not gonna use them for salads or anything, because you didn't have fresh vegetables for salads in November. which is why we go to our, we didn't have parsley though. Anyway, so I also got, for salad in the cold season, they use a lot of pickles. They would pickle a lot of things. So here we have the dill pickles, which are the closest in taste to my grandma's pickles and my mom's pickles and my pickles. We also have these paprika quarters, which is basically these paprika peppers, which you cannot find here fresh. I never found fresh paprika, but I found them like this, and it's perfect because this is how my grandma used to can them, like to pickle them basically in vinegar. And oh, by the way, both of these are a Bulgarian brand. It's called Zergut, but it's Bulgarian. And that's because my grandparents lived in a village in southern Romania, which is very close to Bulgaria. So a lot of things are close in taste. So that's why I got this brand. I also got this tomato paste. My grandma used to can tomatoes, like make a tomato puree or bouillon and can it. And I found that this specific brand of tomato paste is the one that tastes closest to the taste of my grandma's puree. I also got some walnuts. My grandparents used to have 2 walnut trees in their yard, so walnuts were always available in the fall. I got some sunflower seeds as a snack. They used to grow sunflower as well. Cornmeal for polenta. And this is the only actual Romanian thing that I found actually at Phoenicia. It is called zakuska. It's kind of like a vegetable, like roasted vegetable spread that you can and you just eat on bread. And this was also something that was done. Oil. Cooking oil in Romania is almost always sunflower. And surprisingly, when I got home, I realized that this oil is made in Moldova, which is our sister country. So, hi Moldova. I got oil from Moldova. And then last but not least, I got white wine vinegar. The vinegar that is mostly used in Romania is white wine vinegar, and they use it for salads, they use it for canning, pickling, etc. The cheese. So my grandparents used to have sheep. Of course, I got the Bulgarian sheep's milk cheese in brine, which is exactly how my grandma used to preserve it, in brine. And I got this big piece, which is a bit less than a pound, so it's 400 grams. And I hope this is gonna last the whole week because I'm gonna do a lot of things with it. So this is my Phoenicia haul, where I could find most of, like, you know, things closest to Romania. And then last but not least, my HEB, of course, milk for our son mostly, and for other things that I need to make with milk. We have another half gallon already in the fridge from yesterday that my husband got. Then I just got some salt because we were out of salt. Butter, very important. Garlic, sour cream, parsnips, which you will see I will use for the soups. Parsnips are very important in Romania. They are used in all kinds of soups. And I noticed that they're not so prevalent here. I found these at HEB, but normally if I want parsnips, I have to go all the way to Central Market because usually I cannot find them at HEB, but today was a miracle. So this is what I got between the 3 stores. I will put the total on the screen. Also, outside of the challenge, I got a few fruits for our son mainly because I do not want to deprive him of fresh fruit for the sake of a challenge. And I know my mom grew up like that, and she had a whole childhood of like entire seasons deprived of fruits and vegetables, but I just couldn't find it in myself to not getting fruit. So I got 3 pears, 3 apples, 3 plums, 3 bananas, and 2 oranges, and I think 3 kiwis. Probably my husband will also require some fruit because he's a big fruit eater, and this is already way less than we get in fruit in a week for both of them. I'm the one who really doesn't eat any fruit unless you force me. But yeah, Also, outside of this challenge, I got some things. First of all, tonight we have guests, and since the challenge actually starts tomorrow, I'm gonna make cannelloni. And so I got some beef, ground beef, a few olives for antipasto, just a little piece of cheese, and some red wine, like a little bit of red wine because the sauce requires it, and Parmesan and Romano cheese. And then for my son, I got these 3 pouches. They're like in case of emergencies, in case like, you know, you feed him or you try to feed him and like he doesn't want what you want to give him, or he doesn't eat enough. These are like to just like supplement or even as snacks. Then I got these 3 spices from Phoenicia, and I got them because I don't really get a chance to get to Phoenicia that often. First of all, because it's expensive, and second, because it's in downtown and we're, you know, like maybe 15 minutes away, which is a lot in terms of my laziness of driving. But also, yeah, so I got curry powder, shawarma seasoning. I want to make this, I want to make some chicken shawarma in the next few weeks. And also yogurt dip seasoning for the same reason. So these. So this is the totality of everything that I got today in terms of food. And the total cost of all this, which is the challenge plus everything I got outside of the challenge, which is here, is gonna be shown on the screen. But wait, there's more. These are all the things that I'm going to use for the challenge that I already had in my pantry. So we have rice, we have beans. Side note, the beans that we have in Romania that we use the most are not pinto beans. They are more like cannellini beans. They are like white. But because I had these, and the whole point of challenges is to also use up what you have and not just like be wasteful and spend a lot of money, I'm going to use these pinto beans. And also they're pre-cooked, I think. This is a huge can. Sugar, of course, flour, and then the spices that my grandma used to use, of course, were very limited. So we have dried parsley, we have dried dill, and of course the way she kept it was like the whole plant was dried and like with branches and stuff. But of course I found this at Phoenicia, I think the last time I went, which was like 6 months ago. So this is how much I consumed. We are big dill eaters in this house. And then thyme. This was for steaks and meats and stuff. And bay leaves. And this is used for seasoning beans, bean-based dishes, and also cabbage-based dishes. I have this huge cabbage that was gifted to us a couple of weeks ago, and so the cabbage recipe, of course, helps me get rid of it. And I will also use it for some cabbage salad. And also for cabbage salad, I have this that I originally bought to make sarmale a few months ago, but it was a leftover. So maybe I will open this one and make with oil and with pepper, but I'll see. I'll prioritize this one. And then I have 2 jams. I have the plum jam and also the quince jam. And these are both Romanian brands, by the way. My grandma used to have plum trees in the garden, so she would make this herself. And quince, I know she would make quince jam, but I'm not sure. I don't remember if she had the trees or if she just bought the fruit, but I know that she was making this jam. And then here I have this horseradish sauce. My grandma used to grow horseradish, and horseradish is quite used in the Romanian cuisine, so I'm gonna use this thing for meats. So this is all I'm using from my existing stash. And also as a note, like, these people were eating a lot of things, actually, if I think about it, and it's not necessarily a cheap thing. The thing is that most of these things they would grow themselves. But from my experiments with gardening this year, I have to give it to them because it's hard to grow anything. Like I could not produce anything in my garden, just one chili pepper. So this being said, let the challenge begin. So I said that the challenge starts tomorrow, but actually if I think about it, it has to start today because I have to bake the bread. So my grandma used to bake the bread on Saturday mornings. Like she would wake up super early. She had this like huge oven outside the kitchen, like it was like a construction in and of itself. So that was the bread oven. Of course I don't have all that, but and also I cannot make the bread the way she does it because there's a lot of kneading involved, there's a lot of raising, so I don't have that time, and I just picked the most simple no knead recipe on YouTube that I'm gonna link in the description, and that's what I'm gonna attempt to make. This is only my, I think, 4th time ever in my life that I'm baking bread from scratch and not from frozen dough. But essentially I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. I forgot to say that I also had yeast. 3 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of hot water, and a teaspoon of salt. And these are all the ingredients. And the thing about this bread is that's supposed to be baked in a Dutch oven, which of course I don't have, because why would I have everything that I need, right? But I do have this terracotta pot, which also has a lid. So I guess I can just pretend that this is a Dutch oven, and hopefully my loaf of bread will fit inside of it. And basically the plan with this bread is like I make the dough and then I let it sit for 3 hours and then I bake it. It should be easy and hopefully it works. Let's see. I started off with my flour in a bowl. I then added a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast and 1 teaspoon of salt. I mixed them with my spatula and then added the hot water. The water is supposed to be hot but not over 135 degrees Fahrenheit. I then mixed the dough together. This is my dough and I have covered it with some saran wrap per the recipe, and now I'm gonna let it sit for 3 hours, but it says that you can also let it sit for 4 or 5 hours. The point is that we have guests this evening coming at 6 and it's 3:21, so maybe it's just worth baking it after they leave since it's for tomorrow. So this was raising for 5 hours, and then I did some like on my counter, and then I put it here in this parchment paper in a bowl to sit for another 30 minutes. This has been in the oven heating at 450, and now I'm hoping the bread will fit in here. So far so good. I actually cut the excess parchment paper because it was just too much. Ha! Perfect. Now it goes in the oven. This is how my bread looked after 30 minutes when I removed the lid from the pot. And this is how it looked after another 25 minutes of baking without the lid. Good morning. We're starting our challenge with the first meal of the week, which is gonna be malto meal. And yes, we did have this in Romania in the 1950s. So I'm gonna make this with milk. I'm not gonna describe the process because I did it in the previous video, but this is what we're gonna have. Breakfast is done. For Ivan and I added some walnuts. I don't think my grandma would have necessarily added walnuts to semolina with milk, but she did have walnuts, so I'm making the executive decision to add them. So yeah, this is our breakfast. And for my son, we are not adding walnuts just yet because they're still like a choking hazard for him.
It smells so nice.
I think I'm gonna have to bake like 2 or 3 more.
No kidding.
Oof. Bakery style.
Bakery, please. Take me back in time. San Petroshan.
You know the name is not San Petroshan, it's just Petroshan.
Petroshani. Oh my god.
Should I go again?
I don't like it. I love it.
Well, leave some for me, please. Time for some more baking. I'm gonna be making something that is called pesmeți in Romanian. It's kind of like a snack breakfast item. I don't even know how to describe it. Like mini pies? No, not even. You'll see. Mini rolls. Anyway, okay, so we have 4 cups of flour. The recipe says 250 grams of cheese, but this whole thing is 400 grams. So I do not want to use 250 for pesmet because we also have to eat cheese throughout the week. So I think I'm just gonna use like 150. And then it says 300 milliliters of yogurt. So I will use the yogurt, maybe less, because if I use less cheese in the same yogurt, it's gonna be too runny. Anyway, I'll see. Like I just will eyeball it. 3 eggs, sugar, and here I have 10 grams of dry yeast and 200 milliliters of warm water. Actually, I forgot to mention that it also requires 2 spoonfuls of oil and some powdered sugar, which I also had since like many months ago. Okay, so I'm gonna start by activating my yeast with a teaspoon of sugar and a little bit of water, like warm water. It actually also wants me to add a teaspoon of flour. You can tell I'm not the best and most experienced baker in the world. Like I always fumble with baked goods, but you know, trying to learn and improve as I go. So my yeast has been activating for 10 minutes and this is how it looks like now, and it's perfect, it's bubbly. Now I'm gonna put it in here, add the rest of the water, some oil, and some salt, mix it, and then start adding the flour, which in the meantime I put back into this other bowl. First I poured the yeast mixture into the bowl and I added the rest of the water. I stirred the mixture and then I added the flour. I realized that the quantity of water is not going to be enough as the dough was still very dry, so I added maybe half a cup more water and the rest of the flour. Then I kneaded the dough until it was somewhat elastic and not sticky. I think we have it. It's elastic, no longer sticks to the table. And now I'm gonna put it back in the bowl and cover it and let it double its size, whatever that means. They did not give a time frame in the recipe, which is always lovely. In the meantime, I started working on the filling. I added 1 of the 3 eggs to the grated cheese and mixed them really well. After the dough had risen, I took half of the dough and rolled it on the counter with a rolling pin. Then I spread half of the filling on it, rolled into a roll. Then I cut it into 5 pieces and placed them in the pan. I repeated the process with the second half. This is how my pesmets look like in the pan, and of course there was room for more. Next step was to mix the yogurt with the other 2 eggs. I used this mixture to pour over the pesmets, and they were finally ready to put in the oven. Here is the finished product. They are looking very, very good. And I'm happy that I actually checked in on them, because if I had left them the amount of time that the recipe said, which was 35 to 45 minutes, they would have been carbonized. But I left them for 30 minutes. And for the final touch, I sprinkled some powdered sugar on top. Next, I had to cook the actual lunch, which on that day was chicken ostropel. I started by frying my chicken legs for a few minutes, then I added 1 chopped onion. After a few more minutes, I added enough water to cover them, kind of. In the meantime, I was also making some mashed potatoes as a side.
Explain.
Well, so basically this is something that my grandma used to make on Saturdays when she was making bread. I mean, ignore the fact that it's Sunday today. I almost don't want to have lunch, I just want to eat this. Oof. Back to my ostropel, I added about 2 spoons of tomato paste dissolved in some water, and also some bay leaves. Then I added some salt, and then finally a few chopped garlic cloves. Then I mixed everything really well and let it finish boiling for another 10 minutes. And here is our first lunch from this challenge: chicken ostropel with mashed potatoes and pickles. This is our Monday breakfast. So we have some toast with some quince jam and of course some pesmets. This is Ivan's breakfast. This is my breakfast, and this is our son's breakfast. Of course, we will cut this into small pieces, and I'll eat whatever leftover he has from here, because this is huge. I don't think he's gonna eat all of it. This is our son's lunchbox for the day. We have the chicken ostropel with mashed potatoes, which he did not want to eat yesterday for lunch. We tried to offer some, but I think he wasn't hungry. So hopefully today he'll eat it. He also has a corn empanada that we got on Saturday from our guest. And then we have these 2 little pieces of cheesecake, also from our guest from Saturday. It's really just cheese and egg, and that's kind of it. And a few salty crackers, banana, kiwi, and some yogurt. And last but not least, my husband's lunchbox, consisting of ostropel and mashed potatoes, plus our son's portion from yesterday that he didn't want to eat. And then we have 2 pickles, some walnuts as a snack, and also an apple, which is kind of like a cheat, but as I was saying, we cannot live without fruit. Time for my lunch. Of course, I'm having the ostropel from yesterday. I sprinkled some fresh chopped parsley, and I have this cabbage salad. It's the same huge cabbage that I'm gonna use for that cabbage-based dish, but I also wanted to make a salad with, of course, white wine vinegar and sunflower oil and salt. So it's 4:49 p.m. I just got off work and I'm starting to prepare dinner for tonight. It's gonna be a very simple dish. It's basically just bean stew. I have my pinto beans here. I'll be using tomato paste, bay leaves, an onion, and the turkey bacon. The turkey bacon is because I really need to have some smoked flavor of something smoked in the beans, otherwise it's just too plain for me. This is a deviation from my grandma's. She would just do the beans like this with no meat, or she would do them with pork sausages or some sort of pork meat. But since it's November and there was no pork yet, I'll just make it work with the turkey smoked bacon. I started by chopping the onion and turkey bacon and frying them together in a pan. I then added the tomato paste and fried for a couple more minutes. Then I added the beans, some water, salt, pepper, and the bay leaves and cooked everything together for 10 to 15 minutes, and voila! all done. And then it was time to make some more bread. This time I used the same bread recipe as for the pesmet dough.
Oh my god, I don't know how I got so lucky with this. This baby is sexy. She cooks and she's got a time machine. Like, what more can you ask for?
You know what I'm doing? I'm trying the bread recipe from the pesmet.
Oh.
You know, maybe it turns out even better than the original one. I ended up with these 2 smaller loaves, which I let rise some more in the pans before putting them in the oven. And this is how they look after, I don't remember how long, maybe 30 minutes or 40. So this is our Monday dinner, very simple, beans with turkey bacon, some bread, actually the last pieces of bread from the bread that I baked on Saturday, and cabbage salad. And this is a very gassy combination, but we love each other. This is how our bread is looking. The crust is quite hard, but I like how it's really well done. The one I made Saturday, like, it looked really picturesque, but it was quite like gooey and wet inside, so I had to toast it every time we had to eat a slice. But this one really looks well done. Ooh, I'm so excited. Ooh. Making some omelette with the cheese, and I'm gonna also use some turkey bacon, which I know my grandma would only use the cheese, but we have turkey bacon and it makes me happy. I'm gonna only season it with salt and pepper and a little bit of dried parsley. Breakfast is served. We have this wonderful omelette with homemade bread and not much else, but I think our son is gonna have some fruit, but that's it for us. Here's our son's lunchbox for today. We have the beans as his main course, and then we have some red pepper, the pear, some yogurt, and some salty crackers as a snack. And for my husband's lunch, we have the beans, of course, we have a pickle, some bread, and by the way, I also added some bread to our son's lunch because I had forgotten, and also these nuts, these walnuts as a dessert.
And these nuts. You might as well just put next to the pickle.
Well, baby, this is supposed to be a PG general audience.
Well, in general, people have nuts.
Okay, see you later. Lunch is served. I have some beans here, some bread that I toasted. By the way, this bread, the second batch that I did, I think it needed more salt, so I toasted it just to give it an extra amount of flavor because it was kind of bland. And of course, cabbage salad again with vinegar, oil, salt, and a little bit of pepper. And also I had a snack earlier. It was a piece of toast with yogurt. Time for some roast chicken for dinner. I used thyme, paprika, parsley, black pepper for the seasoning, and I put some slices of butter under the skin. I also drizzled some oil on top, and off it went to the oven. For sides, I first boiled some potatoes and then sprinkled them with the same spices and some tomato paste with water, and then baked them in the oven. For breakfast, we had some jam and toast, and of course lunch was yesterday's leftovers. For our son, I also pan roasted some more veggies. Lunch is served. For me, it ended up being a huge portion, but I am not mad at it because I'm extremely hungry. And we also have, of course, our pickled paprika pepper, and bon appetit. Time for dinner. So I'm making the turkey breast that I'm gonna just like fry in the pan basically. And also I'm gonna be making a side of cabbage, a lot of cabbage. But the turkey breast is the more urgent because our son needs to eat very soon and the cabbage is gonna take a while, so I'm gonna have a different side for him. I used paprika and parsley and thyme and pepper and salt obviously to spice it, and I'm also gonna add a clove of garlic. I started off by seasoning the turkey breast and frying it in the pan with a little bit of oil. For the cabbage side dish, I first fried some onion with some turkey bacon in a pan. Then I went ahead and chopped about 1/3 of that big cabbage, which by the way you should do before anything else since it takes forever. I then added the salt and kneaded the cabbage so that the water is released. Then off it went in the pan over the bacon and onion together with some pepper, bay leaf and dill. It took about maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get done, and I had to stir frequently. I also made some polenta in the meantime. And this is the finished product for this dinner. We have the cabbage, we have the turkey breast, and also the polenta. So I have this very vintage Romanian cookbook for sweets and cookies and cakes. And it's from 1959, ironically. So it's perfect for this project. And what I'm gonna make, it's called cornulețe cu nuci. It's a very simple recipe. I don't know how to describe in English. I don't know if there's a word for this in English, but I think it's like, it could be translated by like super mini croissants. Like they're like this, but they're not like croissants. They're crumbly cookie type things. You'll see when they're done. My grandma would obviously have made this like on Saturday when she was making the bread, but I'm making this on a Thursday. So on this day I had a medical procedure in the morning, so I didn't really film anything, but the boys had leftovers for lunch as per usual. Here I'm basically just whisking the butter, slowly adding in the sugar, the walnuts, and then the flour. Then I'm kneading the dough some more by hand. And lastly, I'm shaping my little cornulețe. This is what my little horns ended up looking like. I started off trying to do this like folded shape like my grandma used to, or my mom, but of course this ended up not working out because it was taking forever. So I did this like more simple shape, and also even this ended up being too time consuming. So with the leftover dough, I made these like cookies. This smells a lot like butter cookies or like sugar cookies. So this is kind of like a cookie dough kind of situation. So with this in mind, I will put these in the oven. And this is how they look after 15 minutes in the oven. Here is how my cornulețe turned out. Please do not laugh. They do not look like cornulețe. But they surely taste like cornulețe, and actually they taste really, really good. And I think this dough is perfect also for cookies, like actual sugar butter cookies. It's just awesome. In fact, I ate like 3 and now I'm not really hungry, but yeah. I would say taste-wise, they are a success. Aspect-wise, they are a disaster, but it is what it is. At least they are very, very edible. Here's a snapshot of our humble dinner for tonight. We have polenta and cheese and sour cream and some turkey bacon fried and fried eggs with some paprika and salt and pepper and the cookies. Yay. Comfort food Romanian edition. Yum, yum, yum. This is our son's lunch. We have some polenta with cheese and sour cream and a few bites of turkey bacon, red pepper, plum, yogurt, and cookies. Moving on to my husband's lunchbox, we have the cabbage and the turkey breast, which is underneath from the other day, and some polenta, and 4 cookies. Some grapes that I found in the fridge, which are from the other week. I think my father-in-law gave them to us. An orange and a pickled paprika. Time for me to get breakfast, and again we have homemade bread with quince jam, and this is the last slice of this batch of bread. Ivan had another slice earlier, so my plan is to bake another loaf today. This is my quick lunch for today. Fried egg with cheese. I took some polenta from last night and I cut it into 2 slices, and I literally like fried it in the pan. And I also added some more crumbled cheese and 2 slices of turkey bacon. And of course, I'm gonna have some cookies for dessert. And surprise, surprise, we have another batch of the first bread recipe going in the oven upon Ivan's request, who wanted this recipe better than the other. And this is gonna be in the oven for 30 minutes covered, and then another probably 30 minutes uncovered at 450 degrees. And by the way, this is supposed to be in a Dutch oven, but obviously this is not a Dutch oven, this is a terracotta pot, but I guess it works. We make do with what we have. Our bread is done and looking awesome. I ended up having it in the oven for 30 plus 25 minutes. So it was a total of 55 minutes. And now I'm gonna cover it with a towel because I would like for it to become a little bit softer. For dinner, let's make some rice pilaf with chicken. I started off by frying some onion, of course, then adding my rice, frying until translucent, and then adding the water. I let it boil for 20 minutes while the chicken legs were frying. Here is our Friday dinner composed of rice pilaf and chicken thighs, and also some pickled paprika. Bon appetit! The last meal I filmed from this challenge was rice with milk for breakfast. You basically boil the rice in water for 5 minutes, and it's 1 part rice, 1 part water, and then you add 3 to 4 parts milk. Then you boil for another 25 minutes while stirring continuously. I also added a couple of teaspoons of sugar and sprinkled some cinnamon on top. If you made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope at least some of the recipes inspired you guys to try something new. Personally, I was reminded of 2 important lessons this week and while trying to do this challenge. The first is that when you're far away from your country of origin, everything can become more expensive. So the fact that I chose recipes from like the Romanian cuisine, which is supposed to be super simple and like, you know, no fuss, some of the things ended up increasing the cost of groceries because I am in Houston. So I think so far this was the most like expensive grocery haul out of all the ones that I have documented so far. And also the second one is just the realization of how much time people in the past generations had to spend in the kitchen, because everything had to be done from scratch, homemade, from the most elaborate dishes to like even a snack or bread. So this definitely gives me much appreciation for you know, how far technology has gotten us. And yes, of course, it's nice to live slowly and, you know, take your time and make everything from scratch. But when you also have a full-time job, and by the way, my grandma also had a full-time job, and her full-time job was just to go in the field and do the field work for the crops. When you also have a full-time job and you also have kids to care for, it is very, very time consuming, and you have to manage your time very, very well. Because this challenge ended up costing way more than I was comfortable with spending for a week of groceries, I have come up with a new challenge for myself. So in the next video, you will see how I am trying to make it work, spending under $40 in groceries for a week in just food, and trying to use up as much as possible from my pantry, my freezer, and my fridge, because of course I also have a lot of leftover ingredients from this current challenge. So if you're interested in this kind of content and also in following our journey into not spending that much on groceries, please make sure to check back soon for the next video. Until next time, bye-bye.